Okay, we are live. Hey everyone, it's just 1 minute before noon, so I thought I would get on here and say welcome, welcome, welcome. We have such an exciting show for you today. I am just, kind of over the moon about our guest because I've known him for a while, and he's a guy with a huge heart and a lot of empathy for people. And this is just going to be a great situation, or a great show. So let me just get started. First of all, I always do a little housekeeping. Here we are at Lucrative LinkedIn Live again. And if you are watching on Facebook, don't forget that if you have a question for us, and you want us to know who it is, go above me and indicate that Facebook can use your name. Otherwise, you can just be anonymous. We'll answer your questions too. Um, so let's get started. My guest today is Ben Gioia, and Ben is a 3 times international best-selling author and creator of the Influence with the Heart method, which the last I looked, and this I think was from 2020, Ben, had been used by 30,000 people worldwide. Yeah. Oh, hey, Deborah. Good to see you. Um, Deborah is one of our big fans, so thank you so much for joining us. Anyway, our topic today is going to be how to write your book in 5 weeks. And, I know that kind of blew my mind too, until I realized, that this is not something new to Ben. He's done this himself. His second book, his second bestseller, was written in 5 weeks, and his resume reads like a bestseller with all his accomplishments. And I'm just going to hit two of them because I'm a recovering academic. He taught leadership at Stanford, for Christ's sake, and he created an empathy video game with MIT. And those were just two things because you guys know I'm an academic at heart, so I saw those and that spoke big things to me. But it goes on and on and on. Just we could not possibly cover all of his accomplishments. So I really want to get started. And Ben, welcome to the show. I can't wait to explore the influencer with the heart method. That is such a powerful name and such a powerful concept. I recently had a chance to meet some of your students, which was just really powerful for me because they were so purpose driven. They really understood. They were very clear on their purpose and also their passion. But I think every one of them mentioned that they had had some kind of barrier to writing a book in the past, and that they were looking for this, for your help, is kind of creating that roadmap, and taking them through all of this. So we're going to talk about, all three of your programs at the end, because they're really great. But I just wanted to ask you about a few things. The whole influence with the heart method. I remember reading somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, but that you had a life-changing experience when you were traveling in India and almost died 4 times or faced death 4 times. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for asking that and bringing that up. And Damon, thank you again for having me here. It's really an honor and a
Oh,
pleasure to be in the mix, and so excited to chat with your people. And
yeah, yeah.
and thank you for, teaching at one of my things recently. I appreciate that a lot as well.
Well,
Um,
we both love LinkedIn,
yes.
as a medium for promoting things.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. In India, actually, in India gave me a great many gifts a couple of times, but that's the first time that I was there. What you're referencing, facing death 4 times. Yeah, I mean, it was talk about eye-opening. And this is all before like I had any sense of like, you know, my own spirituality, any real kind of tools or meditation or ways to keep calm. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I was a knucklehead. I was still, you know, partying and doing a lot of drugs, and I was in India for the parties,
Sure.
right? You know, I was going to Goa, like all this stuff, and went up to this, you know, this hill station up in the mountains, you know, 6,000 feet up, and you know, it started with my bus almost going off the cliff
Oh,
on the way up the mountain. Yeah, that the back of the bus, and I was so if you can picture the yellow school bus and like how kind of how like the back end sticks out beyond the
oh,
wheels, right? I was sitting all the way back there, and
oh my
dude came around the turn too tight, and the back of the bus demolished the guardrail. So I was literally like sitting over the
Oh,
abyss
oh
for,
my,
you know, for that magical like 1 second of and then somehow
yeah.
he righted the bus. We got back on track, and you know, although I didn't have a spiritual practice at this point, at the, you know, I learned mantras very quickly, and silently from the back of the bus to the driver, I'm like, "You're great. You're a great driver. You're going to make it. We're going to make it." Right? Just sending all of this love and positivity, and get up to the place, and then I go on this couple of day hike, guided hike, and you know, walking along first day of the hike, and thickly forested area. We're up in the mountains in southern India, and all of a sudden there's all sorts of yelling, but I can't see from where, you know, and obviously not in English. And the guide turns to me and he says, "Run." And I
Oh
went,
my
"Run?" And he said, "Run." We booked, you know, down the path, and I think we were running for like 10 minutes. I mean, literally, we just kept hustling. And you know, I'm from New York originally, although I live in San Francisco these days.
God.
I thought it was either the police or bad people, right? Like I couldn't imagine what it would be. It turned out to be a wildfire, and a village in cahoots, like all trying to put out the wildfire, which was all the
Oh
yelling.
my gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my
because
God.
it hadn't rained in like 4 months in this part of India, like bone dry, the whole deal. So yeah, so that was the day after the bus. And then day after that, we're walking along, and the guide stops me, and he's like, "Stop!" I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Snake," and there's this little tiny snake crawling across, and turns out to be super poisonous. And so we just throw little sticks, not to hurt it, but just to, you know,
Yeah.
kind of have it move away.
Keep it
And then a
going.
little bit further, yeah, and a little bit further, and I'll wrap it up with this one. Um, Basically, heard a lot of noise, kind of in the thick, you know, the thick forest, and I go running toward the guide because he's the guide and he has the big stick. And we look over just in time to see a mountain lion running in the other direction.
Oh, good. I encountered
Yeah,
a bear that way one time in the Rockies, I remember. And it didn't run away, but we did.
yes, yes,
And it's always on narrow paths. Have you noticed that?
yeah, totally. Very narrow path.
So,
Yeah.
so you became spiritual after that.
It definitely contributed. You know, there was you know, the profound gratitude for life that I hadn't had that level of, you know, profound gratitude since I
Sure,
jumped out of an
sure.
airplane like 10 years before,
Yeah, yeah.
which I'll never do again. And yeah, and it just really galvanized my desire for service and impact. I mean, that had always been on my radar and part of my life, but I was like, you know what, no matter what I'm doing, no matter the circumstances, like I'm helping people in the biggest, bestest possible way that I can, you know, in this lifetime. That's what I'm doing, darn it.
Yeah, so how did that lead into this whole concept of, you know, publishing, you know, and doing it with, you know, as an influencer and bringing, you know, your heart and your purpose into it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So when I had started my business, which was about 12 and a half years ago, all of a sudden. And this
Wow.
is well before I even dialed in on the books, but I started out as a consultant, you know, helping people, you know, with their marketing, copywriting, you know, business development, etc. And my first book and brand were called Marketing with a Heart, right?
I
And the
remember
idea,
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And the idea behind that was like, hey, yes, you want to educate and invite people to say yes to what you offer, if it's
Hmm.
good for them and good for you and good for the world. So do marketing that kind of way, right? And I think it's great. I still do that. But after about 5 years of doing that, I was like, you know what? This isn't quite fully what I'm about, right? There's something I need to rebrand. And I realized influence with a heart, right? This makes more sense because like it can be applied, to leadership, to communication, to books. It can really be applied anywhere, but because the
Right.
essence,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, thank you. Because the essence of influence with a heart is how to be a better leader and communicator, right? And the essence of that is by using more empathy, more story, and helping people understand that you're a thought leader or authority, right? Because all of that stuff, helps to create, generate, and gender those core psychological factors of influence, right?
Okay.
Helping people know you, like you, trust you, see you as an authority.
Yeah.
That's why people say yes to us. And it's not because, we've, you know, persuaded them, right? We've just educated them, shown them what's possible, in their lives, right? And given them, the opportunity to say yes to themselves.
Yeah, great. I'm
Yeah.
seeing. Oh, they're chatting among
Okay.
themselves, and we're getting some chat on the screen.
Beautiful.
So Ben, when I talked with your students, like I said, they all talked about purpose. And, I came away from it. This is kind of the way my mind works. Ex-English teacher, I love alliteration. So you have that published position, profit, and I think you should add purpose to it. But no, I know that that's really important, in what you teach your students. So, um, why do you think it's so important to be able to articulate and live by your purpose?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So I think there's a lot to purpose. One is that we all have a purpose, whether or not we realize it. So like, let's realize it and let's keep realizing it, right? Because throughout our lives, our purpose evolves just as we do, right?
Hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean it changes, but it evolves, right? So,
Right,
do the thing that you're here for, and that doesn't necessarily mean, predestination or specific this or that, but just
right.
you know we're in the biggest mystery that there is, right? And whether or not you know there's a divine purpose, or you make your purpose right now, just live your purpose, because it's one of the things that you got. Like, you got your body, you have your awareness, and maybe you have your purpose. That's about it, right? If you really think about it, like, that's what you came in with, that's what you're going out with,
Yeah,
right? So go ahead.
are you familiar with Viktor Frankl?
Very much, yeah. Or
Um,
not very much, but yes.
but that whole concept of being able to live your purpose up to the last moment of your life. You
Yeah.
know, I think that's such an important concept. That goes with that evolving. Um,
Yeah.
so so I kind of wanted to get into just briefly. I have your book,
Thank you.
the Influence with the Heart Method,
Hmm.
and you talk about 7 of the worst myths about
Hmm.
writing a book. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering if there is like one myth or misconception or belief um, that's widely held, but you really disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, there are many, but the biggest one for these kinds of books that I help folks with, right? Books that position
Mhm,
one as an expert in their space, etc. I'll talk more about that later.
mhm,
People think they don't have enough time to get it done, and that is the
mm,
biggest misperception. And not just because my method like is a good way to do it, but if you think about the important things, right? Like, we have dictation these days, right? We can choose, right? You can choose the length of your book ahead of time, right? You can write out your table of contents ahead of time, map it out, right? And then just kind of start reverse engineering, right? If
Yeah,
you know your audience, and you know what their challenges and goals and fears and frustrations and what makes them tick and what's important to them, like, then you know how to focus the book.
Okay.
Right. So
And just as a follow-up to that,
yeah,
if someone doesn't know their audience,
yeah.
and I'm sure there are a lot of people who use LinkedIn who don't know their audience. How do you guide your students through that?
Yeah, so I have a method in my book writing course, that folks will have conversations, with people about their books, to help get clarity on the audience and what goes in the book, right? And then that kind of comes into a chicken and egg situation. It's like, well, what if they don't know? Okay,
Yeah.
so so generally the folks I'm with like have some sense of their audience, right? When they come to
Okay.
me, um, but what I'm going to say applies for everyone, right? Like if you don't know, if you're not sure, if you need to double check, think of where do people pay you money, you know, where at the same point, a transformation occurs for them, right? So basically, what do people pay you for that helps them, right? What have people paid you for that helps them? And maybe if you're just getting started, maybe the people haven't paid you yet for anything, but how have you helped people that
Hmm.
that they could pay you for in the future, right? And in and among all of those things, like, you know, are you good enough at it, that you can, deliver good results? And when I say good enough, don't be half-assed, but I mean, like, are you at least good enough to deliver results, right? And
Hmm.
do you like it, and preferably do you love it? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
focus on that stuff, and then focus on, okay, well, who are the people who need the kind of help that I can give, and start reaching out to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of that positioning piece too, right?
Yeah, I
Positioning your
mean
book.
yeah, I mean it's part of the positioning, right? It's part of the market research, it's part of understanding, the client, it's part of getting, you know, clear language for the book, it's part of understanding the trends that because what often can happen with folks like us, like, and what I mean by us is, you and I and folks who are catching this live and in recording, like, we're experts in our stuff, right?
Right.
And
Right.
because we're experts, like, that's really cool because we have skills, experience, expertise, hard-earned wisdom, all sorts of case studies, blah 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 blah. And then sometimes experts sit down to write a book, and they're just like pontificating on the things, and they're using the big terminology, and it's like, that doesn't help anybody. I mean, maybe it
Yeah.
helps your ego, it doesn't help anybody else, right? So by having conversations with people about your book, about your forthcoming book, right, and
Yeah.
asking them their challenges and goals and dreams and things of that nature, and understanding what they say and looking for trends and listening to their words and phrases and stuff like that, then of like all the expertise and the stuff you were going to
Yeah.
write anyway, then you can really focus the lens in on what book needs to be written right now for your best audience right now, because you and I could write like 20 books, anybody could, because we know all the things, and you don't put all the things into the one book, you write what needs to be written right now.
Okay. Okay. So it doesn't have to be this really long, you know, textbook size thing.
Yeah, 25,000 words tops.
Okay.
Make
Okay.
it
Yeah,
make,
because I
make
think
it really
many of us,
easy.
yeah, because I think many of us, think of a book like this thick, and and so 20, what did you say? 25?
25,000 words could be less,
Wow.
but I would say don't go more than that, because if you're going more than that, that should be the next book, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, unless there's a really strategic reason that it's longer than 25,000 words, right? Like, people don't read full books, people skim, people scan, people read partially. Why are you going to dedicate 50,000 words to that, right? Dedicate
Sure.
25,000 super targeted words to your best people that position you as an expert in and around your stuff all throughout the book. That's the book you
Yeah.
want to write, because the book is not geared, a good book is not geared, to give people all the information, the answers, right? Like, the best books open people's minds to what's possible in their lives, in their businesses, and you're showing them what's possible. Yes, you're giving them value, but if you give them all the information and all the value, they get false closure. They think they can do it by themselves, and maybe they can do a little bit by themselves, but the lasting transformation that you offer, they can't experience that if they think they got it all from your book, and that is ultimately a disservice to the people that you serve.
Okay, yeah. So, when I think about publishing a book, I think about, well, like I said, a big book that answers all the questions. That's that academic kind of thing, which I
Mhm.
understand since I was in academia has changed a lot, because people, as you said, people don't want to spend all that time and learn everything, that has to do with the subject.
Absolutely.
Um, and I'm thinking about the way that I use business books. And you're right. I go to them for like one chapter or one, these larger books. I may go back time and time again, but I find something different in it. So making those different books makes a lot of sense.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, and having a series of books or having several books, like if you have two books, if you have one book, people think, "Oh my God, you're an author, you know things," right? If you have two books, people are like, "Oh my God, I can't even believe it," right? And yeah, so just, make it easy on yourself, right?
Yeah,
That's what it's so super,
yeah,
super,
that
super
that just
important.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So
Dumont, oh, sorry.
oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you inspired some thinking as well. One of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, speakers, small business owners make in their business, right, myself
Mhm.
included, for many years, right, is we try to learn and do too many things by ourselves, right? And there's, certainly, like, you need a certain level of proficiency, to be able to guide other people in doing stuff. And, you want to do your stuff like nobody's business, of course. Like, you want to excel in your expertise, and you want to have the time to do the things that you most love. And you want to have
Yeah.
the time to be talking to people about either becoming your clients or your partners, right? That's the stuff, right? So for, your book, again, going back, everybody's book, right? Let the book be the beginning of the conversation or the continuance of the conversation, and give people
Right.
enough understanding and help them understand that no, you don't want to, if you self-publish your book, for example, self-publishing is great, but you don't want to do it yourself. Like, don't fix your own toilet, don't fix your own electrical, don't be the self-publisher of your own book, because there's something like, 400 components to doing that the right way. Why
Mm,
are you doing that? Why are you not getting another client? Right?
yeah.
Hire somebody to do that stuff, right? Really, really important. And then, the other part of all of this, and we'll probably get into this later today as well, is the so embedded in what I'm saying is that this outreach of having conversations with people about your book, and whether or not you take my course, like, take all of this to mind, take everything to mind here, right?
Mhm.
No matter what you're doing with PR, with digital, with social media marketing, with email marketing, blah, 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 right? Ultimately, sooner or later, it's going to come down to the one-on-one stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the more you speak to potential clients, the more you speak to potential, partners, people you have relationships with, right? Don't spend the time, money, and energy selling 20,000 books, trying to sell 20,000 books, right? Develop relationships, with 1 to 10 people who can get you to, those six figures much, much faster, help you make an impact much, much bigger, right? Nothing wrong with, like, a little social media, and for some people,
Sure.
like, big loud stuff, like, is strategically appropriate. Do strategically appropriate at the bottom. Keep talking with people, especially people who can help bring your book, and put it in the hands of other people, right? Do you know Susan F. R. etc. from our overlapping? So somebody
Yeah.
in Dumont, where we met, right? A consulting company hired her. They bought her book. Do you know how many copies of her book they bought? 500,000,
Oh
five
my
hundred
God.
thousand copies of her book. like two
Wow.
decision makers, right? 500,000. Now,
Wow.
some results may vary, of course, right?
Sure.
But you know, even if a company were to buy 100 of your books, right?
Hmm.
One decision maker for 100 of your books in the hands, you know, of a bunch of targeted people. Even if you gave your books away for free, like I did at Stanford, right? Like, you know, you might,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of alluded to this before, right? Like somebody reached out onto me. I'll continue my story, right? I didn't want to be the marketing with a heart guy anymore, right? Transition to influence with a heart. Literally just changed the name on LinkedIn on my personal profile. Somebody reached out. They're like, "Hey, do you want to do a 2-day training at Stanford University to visiting business people?" And I was like, "Of course I do." Right? And I mean,
Yeah.
this was a total coup. Like I had been struggling in my business. Like, you know, I had not made more than 30,000 bucks a year in my business. I had $50,000 of credit card debt. You know what I mean? Like all the things, right? And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll do that." So, you know,
I'll
so
crawl
we
there.
yeah, yeah. So we worked out the contract, did the whole thing, signed the contract. And then I said to the event planner, and I had learned this from a business coach, I said, "Hey, by the way, I want to, you know, give superb value, add extra value to this event. I'm going to show up with autographed copies of my brand new book for everyone in the audience, like 126 people, and your staff." She's like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." I'm like, "You're welcome." Hang up the phone. The event is 6.5 weeks away. Hang up the phone, and I was like, "Oh my God, I need to write that second book right now." Right?
That's how you wrote, that's what brought on the second book.
That's what
Okay,
brought on
got
the second book. Yeah, so I actually wrote it, even though my method is 5 weeks. I wrote the second book in 3 weeks because I
it.
needed time to get it produced and printed and back and autographed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I did. So I did all the things, got it back and autographed. Showed up to the event, like they loved it. It was amazing. You know, the event planning company hired me for multiple more speaking gigs, like twice at Stanford, up at
Wow.
University of Washington, a few other places. Um, the people in the audience the following year hired me to come speak at their headquarters in Sydney, Australia. Right?
Oh, I saw that you had been in Sydney. Now I'm getting the whole, now I'm putting it together. Yeah.
Amazing, right? So all of the people in the audience had my book, right? So they're like, "Hey, you know, come speak," and I'm like, "Okay," and they're like, "Hey," they called me back. They're like, "Actually, we don't have the budget because it's the end of the year." I was like, "Okay, no worries. Let's do it next year." They hang up the phone. They call me back a couple days later. They're like, "Hey, we're selling tickets to our own employees to fund your speaking fee so you can come here." So I show up
Wow.
there. There's tickets, literal like concert tickets with my name on them. Right? I show up, you know, somewhere in there. They're like, "Can you do a second talk to a Chinese speaking audience through a translator?" I'm like, "Of course I can." Right? So it's just like thing after thing after thing. But you know, let's come back to the beginning here. I say over and over again to people, leverage your book before it's published. And then I
Mhm.
say, leverage your book before it's written. Right? And then I say, even if the idea is worth it, leverage it. Right? If you're the forthcoming author of a book that you might write in 5 years, start talking about yourself as the forthcoming author of such and such a book because people will perceive you differently and the conversations will be different, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna write this one. I'm gonna embroider this on a pillow.
Right? Oh my God. It's amazing, amazing. And then the one extra practical application of this, and this is what I did, you know, in those frantic 3 weeks of writing the book, right? Creating the book, right? I got somebody on Fiverr, and you know, it doesn't have to be Fiverr, but I got somebody to design a 3-dimensional digital cover of my forthcoming book,
Cool.
right?
Cool.
Put it up on LinkedIn. I'm like, "Hey, I'm writing this book," right? 2 weeks later, somebody reaches out to me and they're like, "Hey, we're creating a mindfulness and empathy video game for a Fortune 100 company with MIT. Do you want to write the curriculum?" And I'm like,
Wow.
"Of course I want to write the curriculum," right?
Oh my
10
God.
months of consulting with a Fortune 100 company based on that, right?
Wow.
Like my income from the year before to that year, like 7 times more money. I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my God," right? Right. I mean, it made a huge difference. And caveat, business owners out there, entrepreneurs, all of us. Like that was the most money I had ever made in my life, but it was not sustainable at that point because I couldn't replicate it. So the following year, I was back down again, right?
Uh,
So a couple years later, it took 2 years because I'm a stubborn bastard. It took 2 years, pardon my language, to
okay.
suddenly to suddenly go, oh my God, I could teach people how I did that. And 9 years after starting my business, I became the book guy. Right. So for the last 3 years, not only have I been teaching people how to write the book fast and leverage before it's published and all that kind of stuff, then I partnered with a great publisher. Then I added other components to round out, like in my mastermind, it's all the things: the writing, the finishing, the positioning, the publishing, right? The back end monetization, the profiting, the LinkedIn outreach, all that kind of stuff, right? Because when
Yeah.
I did my first thing, which maybe I said earlier today, um, when I worked with my first coach, when I was just getting started out and I paid him, you know, a 5-figure fee to coach me to write my book, and I handed 2 credit cards. Could you please charge one credit every other month, right? Already had like 30, already had $30,000 on these credit cards, and all of that stuff. Now the dude delivered what he promised. I'll help you write the book. I'll help position you as a public speaker. That was it, right? So many book coaches, so many publishers, they're like, here's a piece of pizza, but no, it's really the whole pie, right? All you got
Yeah.
to do is write your book and everything's going to happen. It's like, no, right?
Yeah.
Your book is a tremendous tool. It's so powerful. It can be the centerpiece of your business, or one of the nodes of, one of the centerpieces of your business. And, you know, if you work with somebody, if you hire somebody, understand what they're offering and what they're promising as a result. I mean, that's true for anything, but especially in this, right? Everybody's like, yeah, write the book, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. No, no, right? But if you do it strategically, think about why, think about for whom, and then, follow the logical steps for marketing it, most of which, says Ben, the efficacy really comes from the relationships. That's where the
Yeah.
gold is, and that's when they come.
And that's where I always tell people they want to think about LinkedIn, because it's building those relationships, bringing, and you're a master at it. And it really is, because and I've told this to people before, but when I started on LinkedIn, I think I don't know how many years ago it was. People say how many, it was a long time ago. And they were telling us to post 5 times a day and to send out 500 invitations a week. You can't build relationships that way. It's like you have to get into that engagement with other people and build those relationships. And that's what really impresses me about the way that you approach this whole, book writing, publishing, positioning, and using that leverage. And to be honest, I haven't heard anybody talking about, doing that before the book's even published, or while it's still, as they say, a gleam in the eye. You know, um, that's amazing. And particularly at this point in time, because that whole piece about being a thought leader and influencing with the heart and all of that in a time when this world has, we're recovering from a pandemic, there's worldwide, economic collapse, and some, I mean, yeah, and in this country, we're very divided. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons that people are looking for thought leaders, and are looking for people to inspire them and believe in all of that. So I think what you're doing is just so important.
Thank
So I wanted to ask you something else. Now I know my answer to this because I'm one of those people. But what holds people back from writing a book?
Oh gosh. So, the laundry list stuff, fear, doubt, insecurity, judgment, shame. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to remember that. I don't have anything to say. Everybody else wrote the book. I don't have time. It's so much bigger than me. How can I handle this? Do I have, oh my God, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to get criticism.
Yeah.
I, I feel like I have to become an alcoholic and suffer for it. No, all these kinds of things, right? Like there's so many things, right? And when we kind of get out of our heads a little bit and start looking tactically, like a lot of the things are like, well, I have no idea about publishing, right? Nobody has any idea about publishing. Right? This is really,
Yeah.
really important for everybody to remember. Like, it's not your fault, right? Just like everything else, you don't know until you know, right? And publishing world is super interesting today because, in some ways it's like the wild, wild west, as in, people self-publish all over the place, and there's a lot of crap that people publish.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, it's just what it is, right?
Yep.
Please.
No, I'm just listening.
Gotcha. Thank you. But even in and among the wild, wild west of publishing these days, right? Knowing these kind of best practices things are really, really, really important, right? Kind of like I said before, right? You need to know enough to be empowered to make good choices, for yourself, and then to be able to choose people to help you, in the relevant places, and then to be able to guide them and understand them, etc. So, yeah, I think some not I think in my experience, yeah, one of the no matter what the the thing that holds people back or the block or whatever. So first of all, there's no such thing as writer's block with a business book, right? Period. If you know your audience, right? If you know what if you know your stuff, and right, you have a roadmap,
Yeah.
like a table of contents. There's no such thing as I mean, doesn't mean you can't forget some things, or you might not have to go through. Of course, you're gonna help it evolve, but there's no such thing as writer's block in that case. In a novel, maybe, sure. I've not written a novel yet, but this kind of book, no writer's block, right? But let me get back to my thing. No matter what that the block is, or the set of blocks, or the story about books, or whatever we miss, whatever feeling, sensation, thought, emotion comes up, right? And it's going to come up, right? Because you're writing your book, you're taking your stand, you're sharing your message. Who am I? Blah, 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 right? Whatever that stuff is, completely impersonal. You did not ask for that feeling to come up. You did not ask for that emotion to come up, that doubt, that discomfort, whatever, right? Right. And this is where most people get stuck in life, myself included, right? Is that something doesn't feel good, right? And we move away from it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't ask for that feeling to come. I mean, sometimes there's a clear and direct, like, I just smashed my knee on the counter, right? Like there's, and I didn't ask for that, but like the feeling, the sensation, it's still not personal, but I understand why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times the feelings, all the things that come up, like we have no idea why, right? Like, was it, was it something I ate? Was it something I dreamed? Is it a karmic pattern? Did it come from a past life? Did it come from drugs that I'm taking, legal or illegal? I mean, just who the hell knows most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying this with such emphasis and why I'm such a big fan of like what the Buddha taught, for example, right, is the impersonal nature of stuff gets magnified with books. Magnified. You're sitting down and you're like, I don't want to do this, and all you need to do is be sitting there for like 30 minutes and writing some notes. I don't want to, like you're running out the door and you're making a pizza and you're, rearranging the sock drawer, like, So I teach one thing for this.
Okay.
Everybody listen. One thing, right? So you can do this meditating. You can you can do this meditating.
You got me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm doing my job, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you feel discomfort, whenever you are aware of distraction. So discomfort could be physical, could be mental, could be emotional, could be spiritual, could be psychic, however the hell you want to describe it.
Mhm.
Whenever you feel discomfort, or whenever you are distracted, so D or both. Distracted meaning like, gosh, I thought I was sitting here writing my book and I'm, totally mapping out the menu for dinner next week, right? Like that kind of distracted, right? What you do, relax your head, relax your face, and smile and take a breath.
Is that the Buddha smile or
Yes.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, the Buddha smile.
Yeah, that's what I call this, the Buddha smile. I had learned this from a teacher. And the idea here, it might sound like, very often we'll hear in meditation, right? Keep your attention over here. When you get distracted, bring your attention back, right? Like that's the basic thing, right? But the
Mhm.
problem with that is that most people, most of the time, have their attention on something, they get distracted, and then they force their attention back. They're like, oh, I got to get back to it. Oh, I'm such a jerk. And I got to stay, and this is so hard, right? Like so in the forcing back of the attention, like more, you're basically creating more negativity, like more, if you want to call it karmic
Mhm.
imprint, you're literally, excreting more or not excreting, but chemicals are happening in your body of
Right.
like pleasure, discomfort, etc. each time. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the relaxing your head, relaxing your face and smile, what you do is, you're letting go of your attention to that discomfort, and
Mhm.
then you're relaxing into it, right? It doesn't mean it's going to go away necessarily, but you're not taking
Mhm.
it so seriously. You're not pushing it away. You're not getting caught up in the story, right?
Yeah.
Because how easy it is to be like, oh, this sucks. I'm never going to get my book done. I have nothing to say. You know what I mean? It's just going to, and it's like, wait a minute. Okay, let me try this again, right? And you might have to
Yeah.
do that, the first couple times with your book. You might have to do that like 40 times, in 40 minutes. It's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a great tip.
Thank you.
Um, that really is. I want to stop just real quickly and see
Sure.
if anyone has asked us questions because I am notorious for not looking at the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
I appreciate you doing that.
okay. Oh, Dr. Scott Dell, yes, indeed. Purpose with a heart is powerful. And he would know.
Thanks, Scott.
He would know. This is just very exciting. And I want to talk for a few minutes about the different programs you have and the way for people to get things, to learn more about what you're doing. And the first thing I want to make sure that everybody, knows before they start is that, testimonials,
Mm,
especially if they are trying to create relationships on LinkedIn, people look for that social proof
that's
of who
correct.
you are and what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I downloaded your testimonial templates, and they are wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
So, Rusty at the end is going to drop. Rusty's our VA who's on here with us, and he is going to drop that link in the chat so that people can see it. And we'll also send out all any links in our follow up and to the recording and get that out there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your how to write your book in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, but that literally, I thought about it. That
Mhm.
means that they could start because I think it starts in July.
Mhm.
They could have it done by September.
Yeah. Before September 1st.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
what I did with my summer vacation, right?
Right. Yeah. And Damon, thank you so much. And I'm absolutely delighted to share it with folks. The nice thing about, this course and this method, and I'll talk all about it, is that it's not the only thing that you would do on your summer vacation if you chose to do it at this time, right? So some people are like, oh my God, the book, right? And, I don't want anyone, I mean, sometimes we feel that, but I don't want that ever to be the practical application of experience, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, so 5 week book mastery is coming up. It starts July 5th, right? So the day after Independence Day here in the US.
Oh,
We,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, this weekend. or the next week.
Yeah, I mean,
Next
it's
week.
right. It's 6 days from now. It's starting Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So really good time to get in now. You can go to 5weekbookmastery.com, the number 5weekbookmastery.com.
Okay.
That's an easy way to sign up, see the whole program. But basically, even though it's called 5 Week Book Mastery, it's 7 weeks long because we do a little front end prep, a little back end stuff.
Hmm.
There are eight
Hmm.
sessions, 8 weekly sessions. Um, at the end, there is a publishing deep dive online as well. So between weeks 6 and 7, all the stuff about publishing your book the right way, all the stuff about self-publishing, the different options, blah, 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 and creating your custom publishing roadmap, that's also in the course as well, right? So
Okay.
super blueprinted, super, easy to follow process. I teach my methodology for getting clients from conversations about the book, and I am
Yeah.
acting as a business coach for those 7 weeks. So it's one of the best investments of time, money, and energy for a 7 week period. And even if you can't get your book done, like that's not the goal of this. I mean, it's one of the goals, but let me say that is the intention. But there are some folks, right? Like someone, Anne Marie, one of my clients, right? She took my 5 week book course. It took her a year and a half to finish the book, right? Like she kept doing it. She got chipping away,
Mm.
following my method, published the book last year. This year, somebody reached out to her on Google. They're from Google. They're like, hey, we're from Google. We love your book. Can you come speak? We'll pay you.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So, you know, yes, you can get your book done in 5 weeks. Yes, you can make epic progress in 5 weeks. And, the relationship building stuff is embedded. It will help you get clear on the book. And whenever you get the book done, you get the book done. Sooner can be better because people need your message and you can have more money faster.
Right.
But
Right.
really, really understand that, the investment in this experience, it's not just for the single goal of by September 1st, although that's a primary
Yeah.
goal. There's so much more benefit as well.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like it's not just about the book.
Mhm.
You can create all these different opportunities with
Mhm.
these with through the relationships and people seeing what you're a subject matter expert. Well, like in your case, with having to write it in 3 weeks because you already had the speaking engagement. So and speaking on its own is very lucrative. I mean, that can be a really powerful way to spread your influence and to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And that's something that's really, really important about books. Like, basically, if you're going to do speaking, you really want to have a book. And even if you're just, more informally, just doing, and I don't mean just in a bad way, but, simply focusing on podcasts and things like that, like the book just changes the game. Like, you can charge more money. People, will often choose you over the other person. And then those speaking events, right? Whether you're getting paid or not, like if you're getting paid, you can command a higher fee for speaking and you can give away books or sell books, right? Like there's
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
benefits. And then if it's a no fee speaking opportunity, right? Like if it's from selling from stage or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Like, I mean, the book is great leverage in that context as well.
Sure,
So I
sure.
appreciate you saying that, Damon.
Yeah, because you could either give it away or charge for it, but have it, it's a chance to get it autographed, and we still love autographed books.
Yes, indeed. It's fun.
Know, that's really a big part of it. So, let's see. I'm trying to. Okay, so you have the 5 week book mastery
Yeah.
program. You have that second that 2 day program that comes at the end of it. That's
Yes.
more of a dive and a roadmap kind of situation, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So what you're describing is called Publish, Position, and Profit Master Plan. And the idea is to develop with you, an understanding of your publishing roadmap, like what to do and when and why and how. So for folks who register for 5 Week Book Mastery, you get a VIP ticket. as part of that program, right? So everything is
Okay.
recorded all over the place. So even if you can't attend live, like you get that benefit.
Sure.
And for me, the why I do it that way is because during the course we just focus on the book, and then at the end we go, and then we talk about the publishing and figure out what to do next, right? That's the
Okay.
logic. So that's part of 5 Week Book Mastery. But some of y'all, like, you might have a book in place or whatever, or 5 Week Book Mastery isn't the right time. You can just come to Publish, Position, Profit Master Plan as well. The next one is August 19th and 20th.
Okay.
And that's at publishpositionandprofit.com. Once again, publishpositionandprofit.com. But and the nice thing is well, I would encourage you to do 5 Week Book Mastery, to make all the progress, etc. And then whether or not you do that, make sure, if you're going to buy the ticket for Publish, Position, Profit, get the VIP ticket for the
Okay. What's the
bonuses.
difference?
Yeah, for
Oh,
the
okay.
bonuses, for the recordings, and because you get 30 minutes of coaching with me for free, right? So,
Okay.
$497 value, just my stuff, but the VIP ticket,
Yeah.
is about a $4,500 value. So, y'all listening
Yeah.
right now, like, kind of the highest leverage thing is do 5 Week Book Mastery, with PPP included. But if it just makes sense to come to the event, because I know it's also summer, I get it.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Vacations.
yeah, just go to publishpositionprofit.com, and then you can just get a VIP ticket for the event that way, and then I'll just see you then instead of July 5th.
Well, yeah, that makes sense, because people are at different points. So it's good that you have different entry points for that. And there
Yeah.
was something too about a 30-minute master class.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So I do a 30-minute masterclass here and there. I think the next one is not for a few weeks now. It's something like July 28th or 29th. Excuse me. It's called the Brilliant Book Method,
Okay.
and it's basically I talk really quickly for 30 minutes, and teach the most important stuff around you know unpacking, or basically showing how easy and fast it is to write a book, and then how to leverage a book before it's published. So it's kind of
Okay.
like a microcosm of all my stuff in a 30-minute space.
Good way to learn more about, what it's about though, and get an idea of it. Hold on
Exactly.
just a second, 'cause I'm seeing, oh, Deborah is commenting on your Buddha smile. She says, lifting the corners of the mouth help lift the cheeks and open the nasal passageway. It has physically measurable effects that are common sense. I taught my 2-year-old to do it. It works. So, and
Yeah.
phenomenal woman. So
Yeah.
that's great. And then
Deborah, thank you.
we have another comment from Douglas. My difficulty isn't writing a book. I write a lot, but in marketing them. So that's exactly what you've been talking about. You know,
Yeah. And Douglas, I'm not sure if you're still on or going to catch this, but just a couple things. I mean, if what I'm describing in terms of relationships and focusing on that aspect, I mean, I feel like that's the best, most effective, most foundational marketing. But then of course there are other things that you can do. One thing that's very effective is is Amazon ads, from a good company that can help you get set up right. So like I work with a guy, like at the very least, I mean, they make an assessment of everybody's books, right? But they can do, like, lots of volume depending, but with one of my clients, like, we just want to sell one book a day, right? Like, that's all my client wants. It doesn't matter the format, one book a day, right? So in this way, the marketing, I should say, the advertising is effective, reasonably priced, etc. So, Douglas, if you want to reach to Dumont, and I can make that connection for you, if that, or anybody else for that matter, I'm happy to make that kind
Sure.
of introduction.
Sure, that would be great.
Yeah.
And oh, I'm looking back here. We have some interesting. Deborah wanted to know, and I missed this question earlier. Were you already writing and publishing while you were on that trip to India?
I've been, thank you, Deborah. I've been writing since I was 12 years old. But I did not, what do you call? I did not publish my first book until, so India was 2004, that story. I didn't publish my first book until 2014.
Okay, and anybody who missed that story, if you came in late, it's worth hearing it on the recording again.
Yeah.
Just how we become more. Well, it created a change in your life as far as understanding that you wanted to make an impact, that you wanted to change people's lives
Yeah,
and make a
exactly.
purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
That coupled,
great.
yeah, that coupled with just, a supreme gratitude just for the gift of like my life and, what I potentially, get to do on this
Mhm.
planet, from a place of joy, even with the difficulty and crap sometimes that is part of the human experience.
Sure, absolutely. Well, every time I think of your name because it's pronounced Joya, I absolutely think that's the perfect description of you. Um, because, I think I told your class that I'd only talked to you at that point, maybe directly. We had been in and around each other a lot, but directly about 5 times, and I already knew your brand. And I was, some of us who are living our brand, that really is authentic, and that authenticity is so important to it. And it's just you are who you appear to be, Ben, and you have, just dedicated your life to helping other people find that way to influence and to do it in a heartfelt way, to do it in that, as you said, it's the empathy that's in there in the story, and then the thought leadership. So just fabulous. I want to check and see if we have any more questions really quickly. And any of you who hear this on the recording, we will send this to you afterwards. Give us until tomorrow because it just takes us that long. But we will absolutely get that in. And I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm trying to see if Rusty has dropped all of those links in here. Yes, he's dropping the links in here. So, but we will also send that out when we follow up. So, we've got 3 minutes, Ben. Any concluding thoughts for our viewers?
Sure. Damon, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm glad
Oh,
that,
my joy.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, today is really cool, and I'm glad we get to do this some more as well in the future. That's really nice.
Yeah. So guys, Ben will be back. So watch for it the next time and tell everyone you saw it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
and,
yeah,
and
conclude.
we'll be sure to talk about other aspects of
Sure.
publishing and writing because there's so many. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so wrap up thoughts. Some of you all heard me say this. You know, talk about yourself as a forthcoming author of a book, even if you don't know the title. I'm writing a book about X, right? Just start doing that, start practicing and
Mhm.
start believing it, right? Just do that, right? It's not just do that, but please do that. And practice smiling throughout your day. Deborah gave the good description in the comments of the reasons why it works. The more you smile, the better your life will be, period.
Wow,
Right?
I'd never heard it quite put that way. Um, but it just makes all the sense in the world. So Ben, thank you so much for being on, and we will follow up with everyone. I know that there are going to be some follow-up questions, so we'll make sure they get sent to you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
happy to respond, and however I can support Dumont, you and your people, and I know
Sure.
Douglas will follow up with that recommendation, and Barry, it's the link that Dumont just mentioned. I emailed you about that as well, so I'll make sure to follow up with you if
Sure.
if need be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, thank you so much, Ben, and thanks everyone for viewing. And with that, over and out.
Okay. See you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.